Hey there, Super Nintendo fans or Super Famicom fans. I am the No Swear Gamer, host of the No Swear Gamer on YouTube, your source for new reviews on old games. And I'm also the host of the Atari 7800 Game by Game podcast, along with my robotic announcer guy, Voice.
And you are listening to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System podcast.
Right here on the Retro Junkies Network.
At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soul Blazer and George.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Super NES podcast. This is one of your regular co-hosts, Greg, and I'm joined by my regular co-host, George.
That's me.
As always, like who else would you be?
Guy with a tail.
That would be scary.
That would be scary.
But yes, this is episode. This is episode number 41, and once again, for listening pleasure, we're once again delving into the realm of the Japanese only Super Famicom games.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yes, George has more history like of this game, but I do have some history like the franchise. We're going to be looking at one of the biggest games never to come over here to the States, the original Star Ocean, which was developed by Tri-Ace and published by Enix back in 1996.
Such a good name.
Well, there's a reason the name was picked, which we'll talk about here in a moment, but... Okay. So why don't you tell us, like, real quick, George, why you wanted to cover this game in the podcast?
Because I played the other Star Ocean games before, and I said to myself, well, that's right, Star Ocean came out on the Super Famicom, and I kind of want to take a look at the beginning of it all, not knowing that the PSP game was actually a remake of this game, and I already played that. So it's really interesting to also compare those two versions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I have not played the remake. This is a game that I always had. I'm pretty bad at this. This is a game, one of several games I have that you have my backlog of games I've been wanting to check out and just never gotten around to playing it because if this game come out back when this game had come out back when it was released, I would have probably beaten the game 3 or 4 times since then because 20 years ago I had time to sit down and invest the 20, 30, 40 hours to crunch through a Japanese-style RPG. And nowadays, that's pretty difficult. It's difficult, yes. So, but
you want to talk about backlogs? Whew! Don't ask me.
Yeah, I think both of us are pretty guilty of that. But
yeah.
So there is a lot we could talk about here as far as history, as far as history development of this game goes. Again, because it's a Japanese RPG, there's a lot that's been written and covered on this game. So I would try to for this podcast and try to keep it about the same length as our other regular episodes. We'll try to hit the important points, and I would beg your indulgence, just like we don't cover every small fascinating detail like about this game. So Star Ocean has a pretty interesting history. It was developed, like I said, by a small Japanese company called Tri-Ace, which was themselves pretty new. A lot of these people who formed the company had been employed by Namco, and they had recently had been working on another game that's also well known by this time period, Tales of Fantasia.
Oh.
But there were some disagreements with the staff. The main development of Tales was done by a group inside Namco called Wolf Team, and there were some disagreements between them and Namco over how the game was turning out, which led to the game finally coming out, but not coming out in the way that they had originally envisioned it to. So as a result, most people from there left Namco and formed their own company, and they wanted to make their own role-playing game more in line with the vision that they had in mind for it. And one of the things they wanted to do was they wanted to differentiate this game between other role-playing games out of the time period. And one key way that they wanted to do that was they felt that the role-playing market at the time they felt was too focused upon fantasy-based games. There really had not been too many games that had taken a more sci-fi slant to them. The Phantasy Star series, I think, being the one sole big exception to that. So the developers were inspired by that. They also were inspired very heavily by Star Trek, which being a Star Trek fan, I just realized playing this game the first time, wow, there really is a lot of Star Trek influence in here. To the story and technology and the characters and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I actually, you know what, you bring that up, and I'm kind of a new Star Trek fan now. I kind of started watching Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally see what you're saying.
Yeah. So place went about making this game. They were able to get some financial support and development from Enix, which was one of the big Japanese role-playing companies of the time period, having the Dragon Warrior series known as Dragon Quest in Japan under their belt, and like some other games. And the game developed along pretty smoothly, despite the fact that the team, for being their first game, this game is hugely ambitious because these guys wanted to make a game that had a totally different combat system. They wanted a game that had branching paths and multiple endings. They wanted to have a game that would really have a very good soundtrack and a lot of character development and whatnot. And most of the team was experienced. Like I said, they had worked for Namco, making Tales and some other games. But for them trying to put together a game of this size and scope for their first project is very interesting and very ambitious. I'm really surprised at how well playing this game, just how well that it turned out, because I think it was just the experience of the staff that really led to the team being able to come together and pull this game off. From what I've read online, like in their interviews and whatnot, pretty closely in mind of what they had for it. So because of that, this game was huge. This and Tales, actually enough, have the distinction of being tied for the biggest Super Famicom games they ever made, clocking in at a by then, that time period, a really amazing size of 42 megabits. Which was just like I said, 48 megabits, which make this game massive, and that size was one of the main reasons that this game never came out to like in the States. Even though it did get previewed an issue to Flight Issue Nintendo Power, and Enix had originally planned to translate the game, bring it over to the West, because you may not know this directly, George, but I did directly remember this, having grown up and being a gamer during this time period. It was kind of role-playing games in particular, for any system for any console system at that time period, were always more expensive than regular games. Mostly because of the fact that the card sizes were bigger because they are role-playing games. They had to have the size for all the text and everything else on it.
Yeah, so I grew up in PlayStation 2 era, so
right.
Everything was all the same price.
Well, CDs were cheaper to make also. I think that's, you didn't see like I remember Final Fantasy VI paying like $70 for it. I remember showing out.
Right.
I remember showing out $80 for do Final Fantasy IV. And because of the size of this cart, $70-$80 was what they're estimating what the game's going to cost to come out here in the States.
Right. Let me add a correction quickly. I'm sorry. Like when I was old enough to understand all of that, it was very, very late PlayStation, early PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 2 was the defining point where everything was priced the same at like $50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason the game never got ported, just because of that, like sheer cost. And also the fact that 1996 was kind of getting late in the Super NES lifespan. There were still some good games coming out of the system, and would come out like pretty soon. But like people starting to think of the system as having days like hadn't passed. Especially for like a large, ambitious, huge role-playing game like this, and the market in the United States, even though it wasn't quite, even though it was good, was nowhere near as big for a role-playing game like it was in Japan. But perhaps the biggest reason was that the fact that Enix had shut down their U.S. operations by this point. The company simply had not done very well in the games they'd chosen to port and release in the West, and they're losing money pretty badly, and they decided to shut down the U.S. operations. So Tri-Ace could try to find somebody else to publish the game in the West, but again, for the other reasons I already mentioned, they either didn't try or were unsuccessful. The history online is kind of hazy as which one it is. So those are the reasons why this game never came out in the West. Most people probably, if you're a role-playing fan, you probably have played one of the later games like in the series. There have been a total of five original games and 2 remakes all together in the series since then, and every other game, with the exception of one, has gotten a Western release. So, just in case you're not familiar with the franchise, though, what makes Star Ocean really unique, besides the whole futuristic sci-fi setting of it, is it's a pretty unique, especially for the time when it came out, combat system that the game utilizes. Like it's a real-time system, as opposed to the turn-based that was all the rage of the time period, a la Dragon Warrior, Final Fantasy, etc.
Right. It's somewhat kind of like. The first game is kind of like action based in a way, and then the newer ones are actually like basically action RPGs.
Right. Yes. So I played the second game in the series, the second Star Ocean Second Story, when it came out, and loved it. I thought it was a great game, and I was surprised playing this game how similar to that game that this one is. I mean, a lot of the same core mechanics and elements are in place. Especially the combat system, because I really didn't think the Super NES was powerful enough to be able to pull off the combat system as well as it did, but it does.
And it's awesome to see that.
Yeah. There's a couple glitches. I think the fact that you can tell the processor is being pushed to being pushed to its limits, despite the large memory size that the cart has. It's a little bit sluggish. It's not quite as smooth as the PS2 versions are, I thought. Did you have any difficulty trying to handle the battle system, George?
Not really.
Yeah. I had problems where, which character do I have under control, or why isn't doing what I want him to do? Showing the AI was not as good in this game as I thought doing later games.
Yeah, the AI is a little iffy.
Yeah, the AI is pretty good in the PS2 games because the fact that because of course you only control one character directly yourself.
Right.
You can switch between characters like at will.
And you can also give them tactics to follow as well.
Right.
Which I always like. So, I'm really someone where if you say, oh, you can customize the tactics, I'm right there because I want it to be like this and this and this. I want you to do this. Maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think that I like the combat system the Star Ocean games use for the most part. I think the real time element keeps the battles interesting and it keeps you engaged. Because as opposed to like a turn-based system, where just basically two lines of people hacking at one another back and forth. This keeps you very. It's very fast paced. It keeps you on your toes because you're trying to make sure that everybody stays alive and you like that's what you want them to. But it's also but it can also be very confusing and hard to control at times. So I kind of wish sometimes I kind of had more direct control of what was going on. For me, it's definitely a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Also the story and characters items and whatnot, like I said before, have a very futuristic bend to them also, like in keeping with the theme, like the game. The story of the game I thought it's quite good. It's very mature of a time period, I thought. I mean, I think as far as Japanese RPG stories, this one's a little bit ahead of Final Fantasy games as far as like being catered more toward like an adult audience. There are definitely the storytelling's very good. I thought the characters are pretty well fleshed out. It's not the best Japanese RPG of the 90s, but I thought, but the story definitely is very interesting, very unique.
I have to agree. It's one of those things where it's pretty original for the time. So, around that time, how many stories did you see where this is a planet that is, at this point, kind of like medieval times for us?
Right.
And they come across this ship that crashed that's, basically from many, many years of, I can't think of the word now. A lot of technical advantages and whatnot.
Right. Right. So, there's a total of 10 characters in the game. Only 8 can be recruited to do a one playthrough. However, in order to be able to get the other characters, you have to play the game again. And the remake adds additional characters to the game as well.
A bunch of additional characters.
Yes.
And you have to do specific things to get them.
But you can only have, what is it, George? 5 people in your party at once?
I believe it's 4.
4 people. Okay, yeah. But which
I not to cut you off again.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I need to talk about this. They need to start increasing the size of parties because I'm tired of seeing small parties. We have the technology to be able to hold bigger parties in RPGs. We need that. The numbers can go bigger. Just everything. Stop 3 or 4 or whatever. Start making big parties. Start making huge RPGs where you can have 6 to 10 people in a party or something. I would really love to see that.
I think they probably won't because of the fact the trend these days is to do a more of a real-time combat system, and trying to manage that many characters at once could be pretty difficult.
I don't know, with the technology we have now, I think it's very possible.
I guess maybe, but yeah. No, I mean it doesn't really bother me all that much because
No, it doesn't bother me either. I'm just saying that
especially a game like this, we're actually trying to keep an eye on everything going on at once. Trying to micromanage more than 4 characters. If your characters you'll be pulling hair out frustration. But so most of the combat mechanics are pretty standard to RPGs. You have SPs, treasure points. To what you can use to customize your abilities. You have hit points and the hit points and mental points, MPs in this game. If you use for combat, there's tactics you can assign, like George said. There's also the private action game mechanic in this game, which is used for character development. It's really interesting, I thought. I can't remember. I knew about this in later Star Ocean games, of course. I didn't realize that was a thing in this first game too.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And also, this mechanic has been moved on to other games as well. Like
Yeah.
they do it in the Tales of games and stuff like that. And I really like it because it's like, you know, it's an aside to help you learn about the characters and everything. And it's not, in a way, exposition where they just tell you straight out, like, oh, this, and this, or, you know, they have something that happened in the story. No, like, you go and, like, oh, okay, let's rest at this town. And now, oh, this guy's at the bar, she's over there in the stores or whatever. And you just go and talk to them, and you just get to learn about them. And it's really cool.
Yeah, indeed. I think, like, you know, Final Fantasy games would eventually incorporate some of this, but, you know, I think this game is really, like, ahead of its time as far as, like, you know, having this, having this present. Yeah. So, yeah, you definitely can tell that this game pushes the hardware, like, those limits, because, like, you know, it's so, like, you know, the combat system, like, and all the dialogue, there's so much dialogue in this game.
There's a lot to this game.
There's voices in the game, too.
Yes.
Yeah, which is, I mean, Super NES games had voices, of course, but there's a lot of voices in this game, more than I expected.
Right. So we had a conversation about this before we started recording it.
Yep.
And the little intro sequence that they have is actually voiced in English, and that blew my mind. We obviously have to play fan translations because neither of us know Japanese.
Right.
But I thought maybe that was a little thing they might have added or something. No, they had English voice acting in the first, I guess, cutscene you want to call it, and I was very surprised. On top of that, when you say voice acting, the voice acting in the game is a lot of when you attack, they make noises, and when the battle's finished, they say a few lines or something. It's still in Japanese, so I have no idea what they're saying. But yeah, no, they you know, in the remake they do that too.
Right.
And I thought in the remake they just added that, but apparently that's a feature in the base game, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So like George said, he's been playing the remake, which I didn't know the remake actually existed. Actually, you know, bad me, but
I didn't know it was a remake. I said,
yeah.
"Oh, Greg, I'm playing this PSP Star Ocean game," and then you told me, "Oh, wait, that's a remake of the original." I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah." I did play a decent amount of the original game, and there's
so did I.
Some differences.
Right. Yeah, so the remake's called Star Ocean First Departure. It came out for the PSP in 2008. George, since you're the one of us two who have played this, do you want to talk about some of the differences?
Sure. Well, first off, the things I can think of, when you go into battles, or actually before that, there's a huge world map, and you're just running through it. It's not like you load specific areas and you're running through paths and, you know, finding treasure chests like in the world. This is just like a typical Final Fantasy overworld that you're running through, and you get into random battles there. And when you get into battles, you're actually given a target immediately. And because the way that the Super Famicom game plays, when you have your character selected, you press a button to attack, and then you're able to select an enemy to fight. The way that this works is you're automatically given a target, and when you press the button, you will automatically attack. So it makes it more of an action RPG in the sense of you don't really need to choose your target. It's something's automatically your target. Let's see what's different. Well, some of the layout's different too. Like things like the mountain and just like general areas, like the town that you start in is a little bit different, and it's more zoomed out. The areas that you're in, the camera is zoomed out more, so you could see more of the area compared to the Super Famicom version, and that's understandable because, you know, I'm not going to render all that stuff. That's a little crazy. But character design is also changed as well.
Right.
I'm not sure how accurate the fan translation names are. I know some of the names are names that I've seen in the remake, but the main character's name, what was it, Radix?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yeah.
I think they changed that to Roderick in the remake, and he has blue hair now. I think he has blue hair maybe in the Super Famicom, or maybe it's black. It's something like that. It's like a shade. It's it's one of those colors where it's like if you say it's blue, it looks like it's blue. If you say it's black, it looks like it's black. But you can't fully tell. At least I have that problem. But like he has his blue head of hair, and the characters are changed. Like Millie's name is spelled differently, and she actually has like pink hair, stuff like that.
Right. There's also like new characters that we already mentioned.
Yes.
There's also the game's given totally brand new and complete voice acting. And it's also like some new like animation like artwork that was also included.
Yes.
As a side note, I didn't know this. One of the characters that you can have in your party, Ronix, you play his son. The second game in the series, Star Ocean Second Story.
Oh, okay, yeah. Ronix is the captain of that crashed ship, or
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or not the crash ship, the ship that comes down to take a look at the crash ship.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. No, he's the father of Claude, who's the main character in Star Ocean Second Story. So.
I haven't played that game.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, by all accounts, the remake sounds very good. A lot of those changes that you mentioned are things you're doing things that are definitely things I would say were kind of a weakness like the game. But it's also the fact I recognize that for when this game came out, this game was very ahead of its time. And things we're used to now in games are totally different than what the norm was like 20 years ago. So
I can't think of a game that has anything similar to the skill system in this game, because the skill system is really awesome.
Well, the Mana series, I think, also has a very complex, in-depth skill system. But you're right. Outside of that game series, I think this one's very good.
Yeah. So. What I really like is you go out and you have to buy books or something like that, and it gives you skills.
Right.
And when you win battles, you get skill points from defeating enemies. And some of these things are very straightforward, where put in this and it'll increase your defense and whatnot. And then there's other things like skills like fishing and cooking, and it's so interesting because you put into something like cooking, and not only will it increase the skill of how you put ingredients together and whatnot together to actually make something to eat, but actually it'll increase dexterity or speed or something like that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. A lot of these skills are not necessary to use to get through the game, but they can help.
They sure help.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah, so I think the only one of the only other weakness I'd say this game has, outside of the fact of being a bit dated in some aspects and pushing the hardware probably a little bit past what it was designed to do, is the boss battles I thought were very easy. Which is something the developers themselves acknowledged just to make sure that in the later games of the series, the boss battles are made much tougher, almost too tough, I think, in some cases. They kind of went to extremes with the later games, trying to counteract that that weakness.
Yeah. I don't know what else to add on to that.
What do you think about the graphics?
They look good. The environments look great. The characters, I mean, how much can you do on a character? It reminds me of Final Fantasy, to be honest. But it still looks good. There's enough definition. I just have to say that the world looks really good, though. Yeah.
I mean, you definitely could tell just how much data and stuff is crammed into the cart. I mean, the fact this game is late in the Super NES lifespan helps, I think, because the fact that I don't think they could have pulled this game off early on in its lifespan.
Right. Everybody knows the tricks and everything of the
right.
SNES. Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think this probably, I wouldn't call it the most impressive graphical Super NES game, but
No, but it's up there.
yeah, it's definitely up there. Mode 7's used very well, I thought. Definitely some very nice, definitely some very good Mode 7 effects that don't look terrible today, actually, compared to like most Mode 7 effects.
Right.
So, that was impressive. The soundtrack I thought was very good. Has a very different feel to it, I thought, than than say that say for example like the Final Fantasy Euro Dragon Warrior series. Definitely, I think it definitely has kind of like a high fantasy / sci-fi orchestral feel to it almost.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you thought about it the same way, but
No. I can see that. I'm kind of drawing a blank because I'm so used to the remakes music, which is it's somewhat similar to the games, but it's also what kind of like remixed in a way. If that makes sense.
I didn't realize they changed it that much.
It's like yes and no. Like it sounds similar, but it's made up of actual. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's like still the base song, but they kind of like added onto it and whatnot, and it's clearer because it's what is it called? Red Book audio. I think we talked about this before, and I didn't know what the I don't know what it's called. I think it's called Red Book audio. You know, whereas the SNES is actually generating the music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, this game was very popular when it got released in Japan, obviously, like for a number of reasons. It sold ultimately sold 235,000 copies, like in Japan, which is quite good for like a role-playing game. Even in the land of the rising sun, where the people are like you absolutely starved like for games of this type. But they and because of that, this is one of the first games that was translated. I believe the original translation of this game originally came out back around 2000. Back when emulation.
I think that's the date. Yeah.
Yeah. Back when emulation was emulation. Early emulators had a problem playing this game because of all the tricks and tactics that you used.
Oh.
So it took a while to get the emulation like this game like down right. But as soon as they could, they did a translation of it, and that translation's pretty much been unchanged since then. There's been a few small touch-ups to improve a couple bugs and to improve slight differences here and there. But from what I understand, the translated ROM version that you and I played is essentially the same one that was released back in 2000.
I could imagine some guys sitting. When is that Star Ocean ROM gonna finally work on my SNES emulator?
Yeah, I mean, like, the game uses a special mapper and 48 megabits and just, like, other things going on with it. So it's like, this game was a challenge to be able to pull off correctly. So, for being a fan translation, I thought the translation was very good. I mean, like we were saying earlier, maybe some of the names weren't translated right. Compared to what's been officially established as canon, like the remake. But then again, you have to remember these guys were operating under before the remake came out. They're trying to figure out how best to translate names to a different language, which is always a challenge, regardless of what language they're doing it for.
Or it might be that thing of they might have translated it exactly or close to exactly, but then. It was a localization decision from the team that actually did the remake that translated the game into English, saying, "Oh, we should just change." Because they've done that with Final Fantasies in the past.
Final Fantasy games, Dragon Warrior games, have all had that. Like Chrono Trigger, they had done. Had done also. So, very very common.
Yes.
So, because this game sold so well, it did spark off a series. We've already talked a little bit about that. The next game in the series came out was Star Ocean Second Story, which came out with the PS2 like 2000. I'm sorry, earlier than that, 1998. for Japan, and 99 North America, and 2000 like in Europe.
So you mean it came out for the PlayStation, not the PlayStation 2?
Yeah, sorry, PlayStation.
That's alright.
So I'm getting ahead because this game's appeared on a lot of platforms.
Yeah, because then the one after that was PS2, and that was that till the end of time?
Till the end of time. Yep, that was PS2 2003.
That's a cool game.
2004 came out in North America. Yeah, I only played that one briefly. Second Story is the one that actually is the one I played the most of.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna have to play that eventually.
Well, Second Story also got a remake. Yep. So
what is that
game's? I believe that was also for the PS. I believe that was also like the PSP.
Oh, okay.
I did not write that down.
I will go take a look at that then.
I wasn't expecting that question.
Well, see, I just surprised you.
Right. The only game in the series not to come out yet in the States was Star Ocean Blue Spear, which was a direct sequel to Second Story. That was released, only for the Game Boy Color, back 2001. They had planned to bring the game over to the States, like on the GBA, but that never happened.
I wonder if there's a translation for that now.
I don't think so. I didn't see one when I was looking around for it.
Oh, that's a shame. I'm really interested in looking at that.
So the next game in the series was Star Ocean Last Hope, which came out for the Xbox 360, due back 2009.
That wasn't the PS3, huh?
PS3 came out the following year.
Oh, that's... okay.
So
yeah, I have the 360 version of that.
Yeah, it was originally exclusive for the Xbox 360. Like when that ran out, that's when they ported over to PS3. So
yeah, they've done that with a few games.
Right. And the newest game in the series just came out recently. The really weird, tongue-twisting name of Star Ocean. Star Ocean like Integrity and Faithlessness,
which I have and is a good game.
Yes. Came out in 2015 in Japan and 2016 in the West.
Yep.
You're available both for the PS3 and the PS4. So, and there was also like a Magna you'll produce of the series like in Japan as well. So, Star Ocean's definitely been a very popular series. Square Enix, of course, is the one making the games now, since Enix merged in Square a while back. But the series has done very well, and I expect there I expect there'll be other games in the series coming out. And having played at least a little bit of most of the games in the series, it was very interesting to go back to its roots and to see, wow, there really is a lot in the first game that's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But you don't see that a lot with first games in the series, because there may be some of this, like Final Fantasy or Zelda or Mario, you may see some of the same mechanics still sticking around, but to see how much of the original game is still present even in the newest game, is really surprising.
So I'm wondering this. This is 2016. Star Ocean hasn't had that many games, but I'm trying to figure out which one hasn't aged that well. Like just with like new games coming out, basically. Like if Final Fantasy games aren't that good or Star Ocean games aren't that good. And I have not gotten the new Final Fantasy yet because there is a new one, but I really want to make a comparison in see which one is like you should kind of stop doing it, and which one is like, yeah, it's still got time on it.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, the major things about this game that have not aged very well are not really the fault of the game itself. You're just like more of a fact the games have changed, and it was because of that the remake got very mixed reviews when it came out, because a lot of people were saying, well, this game really feels dated. They didn't find the game to be as fun as like current games of the series. It's like, well, of course it's dated. It's a game.
The thing is, they upgraded the game to play more like a modern game than like the original game.
Yeah, right. So, but still, you can still tell at its core this is an old game.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But But yeah, so the remake got very like mixed, mixed comments because of that. If you want to play the game, remake versus original, that's a tough choice. I think that kind of depends upon your preferences because, the original. Because you can very easily get the ROM and then translate a patch to play by emulation.
Well, you don't even have to patch it. There's actually a ROM literally out there that's translated. Because I think this is before the whole thing of you need to create a patch because it's more like legal or whatever. Like because this was early 2000s that this ROM came out. And it's been thrown out everywhere across the internet. When you put it out on the internet, it's basically impossible to get rid of. But I think, this was before the whole thing of you need to make a patch for it because it's not legal or something like that. I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
it's not. Well, I mean,
so it's actually
area,
just a translation ROM.
Yes,
which is interesting. But I mean, on top of that, you can also get a PSP emulator, and play the remake. So. It's a tough one, What I would personally do is go out and play the original version, but if you're interested in the modern version has there's more content to it and it's more the gameplay's a little more streamlined.
Yes. And if you're a purist who doesn't want to do emulation, there are available some very nice looking repros available online too.
Ooh.
We'll talk about that when we get to our eBay pricing. But yeah, very, very, very professional looking labels, making it look exactly like how the game probably would have looked had it gotten a US release.
Reproductions are getting pretty good now.
Yes,
that's awesome to see.
But yeah, it's a tough call. The remake has a lot of things that make the gameplay easier for sure. It certainly, certainly has like more modern conveniences and things to help you out.
Right. Also has voice acting for cutscenes and stuff like that.
So I would probably say if you're a big Star Ocean fan, stick to the original. You'll probably get more enjoyment out of it that way. If you're new to the series or just simply don't want to deal with some of the hassle of older games, like you're young, like George is here.
Hey.
Didn't grow up during the time period in which tough games were expected or whatnot. Then in those cases, I think go with the remake.
Hey, the remake's still pretty tough.
Yeah,
it's no cakewalk. But yeah, no, that's pretty well put. For someone who wants to go and see its roots, or someone who's new to these kinds of games, or just Star Ocean in general. Yeah, maybe go check the remake out.
So I already touched upon what I thought was the only weaknesses this game had, which I thought altogether it's a very fun game. I do plan to finish the game now I started playing it. But the combat system I think can be a little bit confusing and sluggish.
Yes.
The bosses I think are somewhat easy. It can be a bit confusing trying to figure out what items and what combinations are needed to be able to do what. So besides those points, is there anything about the game that you kind of felt was you kind of felt was a bit on the weak side?
The exploration is not straightforward. I found myself.
Yeah, it's true.
I found myself stuck in an area for a little bit, a few times where it's like, when you see a map and there's a line going from south to north and you have to go north, you kind of think that you have to go north, but no, sometimes you have to go east or west and then it continues north, and that's that's not the problem. The problem is some of the paths are kind of hidden, or you might pass them by easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'll find yourself basically getting into a lot of battles trying to figure out how to get to your destination.
I don't see a problem with pulling up maps of this game like you need to, because maps certainly make things a lot easier. And you don't want to. I thought I also think this game is a little bit. There's a little bit of grinding you have to do in this game. The grinding in this game is not as bad as other typical RPGs of this time.
I mean, it's a Japanese RPG.
Yeah.
When I hear that it's a Japanese RPG, I feel like I have to grind. But the way that I am, I grind anyway. So.
Yeah, I think the grinding in this game is probably a little bit worse than Final Fantasy games, but not really that bad. Certainly not as bad as Dragon Warrior games.
It's faster, I feel.
Well, that's one of the reasons the developers went for real-time combat system, like for the battles, because they wanted to speed it up. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, it worked. I mean, like my frustrations with the combat system aside, most battles you're in and out of in about like 30 seconds, I think. But
yeah.
Like maybe a minute. Like having everybody just being conservative and don't want to use any magic or special skills or whatnot.
Yeah, I was very happy to learn that when they automatically set Millie to do stay back and do healing. I was like, okay, you're perfect. You're doing a great job, because that's what I want. I want somebody staying back and healing, because if I screw myself over, like I don't want to die. Right. You know, I want to get like a second chance out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, so all in all, this game is very impressive. I kind of wish I hadn't like waited so long to play it, because like I said, I am a fan of the series. I certainly did love Second Story. I haven't beat any of the other games in the series, even though I did play some of them, just mostly because of time concerns. But this is a really great game to kick the series off. I certainly can see why it was so popular in Japan. It's a real shame this game didn't come over to the States. At least now we have it available to us in 2 different formats. So
right, and that's really cool. I'm gonna go finish the remake, because I am much further in that than I am the Super Famicom
right. Yeah.
version.
So, I think overall this is pretty good. I think overall this is a pretty good beginner's RPG, because, like I said, it's challenging in parts, but I think overall the overall difficulty of this game is not that tough. So the combination of that and the streamlined fast combat system, combined with the very interesting sci-fi based story, which is pretty unique for role-playing games, I think that all works together in the game's favor to make this game a very highly recommended game for somebody if you have the patience for old-style RPGs. I fully understand that not everybody does these days, but if you have any kind of tolerance for any kind of any kind of role-playing game, I think this game was probably one of the best to come in this time period, and definitely for this hardware.
Yeah.
So, you have any final thoughts to add on to what I just said, George?
It's good game. Play it.
That's okay. So there is a glitch, glitch that's in the original Super NES version of the game. It allows you to make your characters invincible. It's a pretty complex glitch, so I won't go into the whole process here. You can find it online if you want to. There's also available in the game, and I have no idea if the remake has this or not. There are 2 Easter eggs in the game where you can access secret hidden areas after the game's been beat. The Oracle Room, and the 7-Star Ruin.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So.
Just a little bit in for bugs and glitches are something that will happen in big games like RPGs. So it's very hard. It's very hard to find every single little thing and squash it.
Plus, the process to make your characters invincible is kind of like specific. You have to do you have to do a specific series of events. Like have a certain certain. You also have the. You also have the appropriate instruments to on hand also. So
right, it's probably a lot about manipulating integers. I don't even know how these people figure it out, but there's a lot you can do if you can manipulate integers the right way.
Right.
Oh man, people are insane. There are people who literally go out there and try to figure out bugs and glitches, and it's crazy. To this day, people are still finding bugs and glitches for Paper Mario on the N64. There's actually, if you're playing through Virtual Console or something, you can actually beat the game in about a minute.
Huh.
It's the weirdest thing. You can't do it on N64 hardware yet, so it's not good for speedrunning because speedrunning has to usually count for like actual hardware.
Exactly.
But it's really interesting. Like about I think it was like about a week ago or something. Somebody figured out how to screw around with the game and beat it in like a minute. So there are people out there playing around with numbers.
There's also a glitch in I think it's like Super Mario Brothers 3 that allows you pretty much do the same thing. So yeah, some very interesting stuff out there that do for games for sure. So eBay pricing, as I said before, this game was not available officially in the West, but I did mention before that there are some very professional-looking repros available out there. I took a look, both at repros available for sale, and also to compare the pricing. I also took a look at official Japanese carts that are being sold by sellers already located here in North America. So you don't have to worry about the hassle of trying to import the game from Japan or whatnot. So, and the pricing was actually pretty comparable across the board between them. Whether you want an original Japanese cart or a repro, they're going to cost you about the same amount of money, which I found surprising. But there is kind of a wide difference between the pricing. That's to be expected, I think, because of course we have seen other officially released Super NES games that have kind of a wide variance of pricing.
Also, some people get those repros and sell them for higher.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I have no idea the repos are still being made. It seemed like
I'm sure there might be a website or two.
It seemed like there were slight differences between some of the labels, which suggests to me that more than one person or more than one group's making them, or had made them in the past. But like I said, these are all very. Like I said before, these are all very professional looking. So, anyway, between original cards available here in the West and repros, 14 copies are currently listed on eBay, with 32 recently sold. You can have a card of this game for anywhere from $13.50, all the way up to $48.50. And the CIB pricing will run anywhere from $89 to from $89. Like up to $113.
For the original game,
yes,
I think I would pay maximum $30. But that's not too bad. Finding repros
it's not
for
really.
like $12 to about $40. That's not bad. I've seen repros go for a lot more. And then there are those people who are very scummy and they buy repros and then they try to sell it as if it's the real thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's a shame. We could probably talk for hours about crappy people and repros and pricing on games and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but repros are going to be. I expect repros to be a little bit more expensive than original cards because of the hassle, because of the fact there is extra expense involved in that. You have to, you actually have to get the cart, make sure it has enough size, clean it up, put the label on, et cetera, et cetera. So there's extra work involved.
I guess, but I don't think it would be that much of an extra cost because the technology out there to make these carts is like nothing now.
Plus, you're also talking about smaller print runs too. So.
Yes.
But this is. So yeah, all in all, I was very surprised and very impressed, and I kind of wish I hadn't waited so long to touch this game. Like I said before, it's been on my list to play, but
well, you're welcome.
If this had come out back was supposed to, I would have been in college and I would have had the time to sit down and play this game. Now it's a bit more difficult to do it, but I will find the time to finish it up eventually.
Awesome, let me know.
Right.
I'll probably I'll hop on my PSP once in a while and play.
Right. So, do you have any closing thoughts, about the game, the series, or whatnot, or anything else, for our listeners?
No, not really. I mean, I can see why the series is still going on to this day. it's a good game series, and it's not like they had like 2 or 3 versions for every platform. They just did one for Super Famicom. There was one for PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3/4. So like they spaced it out well enough compared to Final Fantasy, where what are we on 15 now? Is that the one that just came out or is coming out? Whatever it is.
15 should be coming out soon. Yes.
Yeah, which I actually want to get. But...
Yeah, that game's been in development for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I think it was originally something else, and then they turned it into Final Fantasy. Yep.
Right, yeah.
Not to talk about modern games.
Well, pretty much Final Fantasy is the only Japanese RPG that should be made out should be made here in the the West, because
Tales of games are coming out.
Yeah, well, yeah, that one too. But yeah, Japanese RPGs are a lot harder to find now than they used to be. Most people's gamers taste has switched over to Western style ones, which are also very good, but they're very good. It's not really fair to compare them because
they're so different.
Right? Yeah, totally different worlds. But
sometimes I want to sit down and play a Japanese RPG.
Yeah. So and like I said before, this one's a classic. As long as you have the stomach for older games, then it's all good.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, for our next episode, we're going to be looking at another game that never got released in the States. This is going to be our first PAL exclusive Super NES game. George and I were talking about wanting to do something related to Christmas, to the holidays coming up. So I looked around, and there actually was a dedicated Christmas game made for the Genesis and the Super NES called Days Before Christmas. Days spelled D-A-Z-E. Haha, very funny. The Genesis version came out here in the West, but the Super NES version never did. So we're going to be looking at that game because it's one of the only official released commercial Christmas games for any platform, actually. So, neither one of us have played the game. I heard about Tug for us a podcast before in the past, and it's supposed to be very good. So I'm looking forward to trying it out.
All right.
And George is probably going to grind his teeth because it's a platformer.
Yeah. Oh well.
But if you like the podcast, and we hope you do, otherwise, why are you listening this far into it?
They want to send us nasty comments, but be accurate.
If you have any comments, good, bad, or neutral anyway, they can be left either on our Facebook page, or you can also send me an email directly to the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. And George, where can they find you at? They'd rather complain to you instead.
Oh boy. Well, if you use Twitter, you can find me on there at Mr. Chief at MISTURCHEEF. And hey, Greg and I also do another podcast called PlayStation Power, which is not family friendly. And I do a podcast called The Box Fort, which is not family friendly. And on top of that, I also do a podcast called Master System Masterpieces. And man, more people need to know about the Master System, I have to say. Nay. Hey, you came on an episode.
I did. There are some great games for it for sure.
If you take a comparison of Master System and NES games, same things like Double Dragon and whatnot, usually you see that the Master System version is better.
Not always.
NES fan. Anyway. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. Yep. And so we have some other special stuff planned for future episodes.
Woo!
Don't want to tip our hand on that yet, mostly because it's still being developed as we speak. But look forward to that.
I am.
Please also check us out on iTunes. Ratings, reviews on there are always highly appreciated. And we are a proud member of both Retro Junkies and Throwback Network. We can find other great retro gaming and non-retro gaming podcast available to available for your listening available for your listening pleasure. So once again, thank you very much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your support, and have a good night, all.
Good night.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Team Club.